Hey guys, it's Danny. Today we're gonna make an orchid experiment. We are going to try out the Lechuza potting system. Now, if you remember, a while back I asked you guys if you're interested in me trying these things out, and literally none of you were interested. I think I got one comment though, one or two, saying you were interested. So I thought, hey, no point in me trying out something that you guys are not interested in. I wasn't much interested in either. But recently, I was kind of inspired by Laura from Garden Answer to try out something self-watering. And I thought, oh, Lechuza. And I wanted to use these pots with my African violets. So I purchased 3 of them to try out with my African violets. But when I opened the package, what do we see here? We see orchids. I guess I can give it a spin with orchids, and if I don't like it, I can put my African violets in them. Why not? It will be an educational video, even though nobody asked for it. You are still getting an experiment. So first of all, disclaimer. This video is not sponsored. The company did not send me these products. I purchased them myself from Amazon, and I have never ever in my life spoke with anybody from Lechuza. So this is how the product looks like. I'm gonna give you a close-up. It has a really nice packaging, and if it's something that I really do like with products in general, is if they have a compact, nice packaging. They don't just arrive loose in a box, you know what I mean? So yeah, props for the details. I knew the system was supposed to be elegant from the get-go, so I was expecting the quality of the plastic to be great. I can tell you it's not all that great, at least in my opinion. It's nice, but it's just plastic. It's nothing fancy. It's just glossy plastic, normal plastic, pretty flimsy, so maybe I just had some weird expectations. But the pots themselves, they look good on camera, they're just plastic. I have this type of plastic in my decorative pots, nothing to brag about there, but the system actually looks pretty great. These pots were around £9 each on Amazon, and together with the pot you actually receive the medium as well, which is interesting. I only thought the price referred to the pots, but apparently with each pot you will get medium as well. Not necessarily a whole lot of it, but you will. And we'll get to the medium. Now this is the smallest pot they have. This is the mini Deltini, and I'm trying to find some measurements. You can see here the dimensions, 10 by 13 centimeters and 4 by 5 inch. Pretty tiny, and I think on Amazon it was advertised as the 13 centimeter model. And I actually thought it was the standard Phalaenopsis pot size, you know, when you purchase it, but it's not. It's actually really tiny. And inside, this is the actual pot. Everything else is a reservoir. Now, each pot has a little level here. You can see when the pot is full of water, or should I say the reservoir, or when it's empty. So that's great. This is the watering system. I was pretty happy when I received it, and then I opened it and saw this. So there we have it. These small pots actually work with the wick watering system. Remember that? We kind of tried it out with orchids right before the orchid died of fusarium and the project was never fulfilled. Well, we can do it now. Wick watering is actually a pretty popular and old system. Many people used it with African violets. Wick watering is good with small pots, not big pots. The bigger the pot, the bigger the wick you need, and at some point you will end up with a thick rope, and it's just not worth it. I was a little disappointed because I was imagining this some sort of other type of system which you get with bigger pots, and I think you can see it here in the picture. I don't know, I was imagining something else, not a wick. These guys come with a wick. So, you know, it was like, yay, but because this means we cannot actually use many types of media. I was prepared to try out even semi-hydroponics with this, but no, it's not gonna cut it. The wick is not enough to divert moisture to leca. Leca is not that absorbent. It's actually very poorly absorbent if you think of Ceramis. So wicks will definitely not work with leca. I don't even want to try it. Second, it will not work with bark. Again, bark doesn't wick anything. You remember layering, we talked about it yesterday. Gravity will make it so that the bark will be wet at the bottom and dry at the top, not what we want. So it's not gonna work with bark. It might work with a terrestrial mix. I might try it. What it will work with though is sphagnum moss. So one of the medias that we're gonna try is sphagnum moss. And the second medium is this medium right here, which is called Lechuza Pawn. Now, about this medium, you guys, remember when we used to say Ceramis is expensive? There is a new boy in town, this guy. This guy is expensive. I guess depending on the source you're purchasing it from. Since I got it with my purchase, hey, I'm gonna try it out. But honestly, if it works anything like Ceramis, I think you can actually use Ceramis with the system just as well. But what is this medium? Is it clay? No, it's actually some sort of zeolite, and I will add down below a link that talks more about this medium, its properties and so on. It's also slightly fertilized, which is a no-no for me usually. I much rather prefer inert media because I want to control the level of fertilizer, but what to do, we're gonna try it out as it is. And yeah, we'll see how wicking it is. I suppose it is actually very wicking. I think it's just something like Ceramis, but will it attract algae like Ceramis? We don't know. We're gonna test it out, and yeah, we'll see what's what. So the two medias that I want to try out are Spagna moss and this pond medium. So without further ado, let's start the experiment that nobody asked for. Alrighty, so the first thing that I want to do is rinse a little bit this medium. Although nobody actually mentions anything about rinsing, I do see just a tiniest bit of dust, so I want to rinse it. And also, I want to test the water. I want to see how much dissolved salts I have with this medium. Who knows? Maybe it's a little bit too much. So even though I think you're just supposed to use it as it is, I'm just gonna rinse it. So here we have it. This is how it looks like, and it's a little fine for what I want. But yeah, we're just gonna do it. Let's pour it in this decorative pot. It's actually very light. Oh, yeah, has a lot of dust. Okay, rinsing, not a good idea, you guys. There are particles which are very light and probably porous, which float. Looks a little bit like perlite, but I think it's just sponge rock. Do you see that? Slow release fertilizer. Not sure how I feel about that, but that is that. I'm not even sure if I can work with this medium now. Wait, there's a whole lot of it at the bottom. There we go. So we have some blue looking pebbles and some brown looking like pebbles. That is a very scientific description of the product, but hey, you have the link below, you see exactly what it contains. I don't remember it by heart now. So first, we are going to try this medium out with, surprise, surprise, a mini Phalaenopsis. They always want to offer themselves for experiments. You know how they are. So first we're gonna try the system out with my mini Schilleriana hybrid, which I potted in a small pot and she got dehydrated. So she was due for repotting anyway. Again, do not rinse this medium. This is pretty hard to work with now, but I will do my best. And surprise, surprise, this medium is not enough. I poured everything that I had here, and there we have it. It's not enough. You can work with it as it is, yes, but it's not enough. So yeah, that's that. Luckily, I do have 2 more bags, so I can definitely place a little bit more medium. But if I didn't have an extra bag, you know, I would not have been happy with this. I'll pour some more medium and I'll come back with the measurements. So here we have it. I have to say, design-wise, it looks pretty great. I like it. I can also tell the medium is retaining water because things just got a lot heavier actually. So up until now, it does look pretty much like Ceramis, but it's not as dusty, even though it does have some dust. But now let's see how many nutrients it has. You're also gonna see the lever go up. There we have it. We're almost full, but that's okay. Even if it's too full, that's okay because I want to measure the water in the reservoir. So I used osmosis water with a total dissolved solid content of almost around 20 parts per million. Now let's see what the water says. Okay, so it appears it added another about 100 parts per million just through flushing. It's not that bad. It's not bad. So we'll see if this gets worse. There is some dust at the bottom, I can see it, but I'm going to throw away this water and replace it with some fresh water. Okay, so now theoretically the reservoir is full, and it is. This became a pretty heavy pot. Oh, it's heavier than what a clay pot of a bigger size would be. Anyway, that's good. We'll see how long the water is maintained. If the top remains wet, at this moment it is wet. The medium itself is very light. In the bag, it's actually quite light, but when you wet it, it becomes a lot heavier. So it does indeed retain some water. How much? I don't know, we'll see. And I do also believe it has capillary properties. I think it will work with the wick, but only time will tell. So let's move on to the next orchid. So the Paphiopedilum we're gonna work with is the one sent by Max. If you remember, he was bigger than this, but he indeed had a sort of an infection, took over the other fans. This is what I could manage to save. I cut away the older growths which were dying away, and this is what we have to work with, but he's growing a brand new growth here, which is nice. If you remember, this guy was about to bloom, but then the bud just dropped. He was a sick orchid, which is now recovering and is just about to produce a new root system. So he is kind of a sickly orchid, but I really don't want to disturb my other Paphiopedilums at this point. And he's just about to create new roots, so he is pretty much the best one I have to work with. So again, this is not enough medium, but I do have another bag, the last bag. So if I wanted to pot 3 orchids in this medium, I couldn't have. And now that I look at it, this orchid is kind of high in her pot. Paphiopedilums do not produce aerial roots. They're not epiphytic plants. And whenever roots start to grow in the air, they just stop growing and never start again. So I need to redo this one. I'll show you how. This actually happens a lot. No matter how much experience you have with orchids, sometimes this happens. So just gonna dump all of the medium. Oh, so dusty, so dusty. It does not compare to Ceramus, but I feel the need to wear a mask, really. So what I will do is just place the orchid to the level that I think will be okay. I think this is good, and then place the medium. There we go, that looks a lot better. I'm going to flush this orchid and then I'm going to put the water in the reservoir. There's too much dust, I don't want excessive nutrients anyway, so that's what I'm gonna do. Flush it and then fill it up with water. And lastly, I want to try this product out with sphagnum moss because sphagnum is cheap, we all have it, kinda. It's much more easily available than the pon medium, even the Ceramus, and I do think it's gonna work. There are orchids which need constant moisture. Let's just think about Oncidiums, Masdevallias, Draculas not so much because you need space for the flower spikes to come from the bottom of the pot. Hoiaras, all sorts of tiny intergenerics, and maybe not tiny. And sometimes the best medium for this is sphagnum moss, even if we need to change it once a year or every 2 years. If you get a good brand of sphagnum moss, it can even last you 2 years. Let's think about the summer blooming Phalaenopsis or the mini Phalaenopsis even. They do really great in sphagnum moss, and personally I find it very easy to remove from their root system because they have thick roots. So this system working with sphagnum moss, to me personally, it's a dream. I really hope it does. I have here a perfect candidate. This is the Hoiara Lava Burst. If you remember, I told you I could not get this orchid to get adjusted to semi-hydroponics. I tried for almost a year. It's time to give up. So about a month ago, I potted it in sphagnum moss and she's doing so much better. Roots are growing nicely. The problem is this sphagnum moss is not good quality. It's already starting to break down. This is purchased from a pet shop. It was full of hay and debris. It doesn't look good in comparison to this one, which is the best one on the market. Check a video down below if you don't know about the brand that I'm gonna use. I do have a video in which I talk about it. I did want to change the sphagnum moss anyway for this orchid. She's doing great in sphagnum moss, so that's what I'm going to keep her in. And if I can get away with watering her every 10 days, why not? At this point, I don't care about the algae. Algae look okay on sphagnum moss. So let's see, look at that. I do actually have 2 divisions here. This one is the one that does the best. This is a brand new root which is growing so much better. Oh, and I have a lot of new roots here. Yeah, this orchid looks a lot better now. This side doesn't really look as great. I want to plant this separately in something else or just keep here. I do suspect I had 2 plants here, not a division of the second plant. So I'm just going to go ahead and pot only this one. So here we have it. This actually looks incredibly pretty. I don't know if I like the fact that the pot is white. I got 3 colors, by the way, I'll show them to you. Or it just looks good. Oops. I put water next to the pot, not in the pot. So again, I'm using osmosis water. The sphagnum moss was already pre-moistened. So this is orchid number 3. Really curious to see how long this sphagnum moss remains damp. So here we have it. My 3 orchids are potted, 2 of them in the pond medium and the other one in sphagnum moss. I can tell you that this medium, when it's wet, it's very heavy. It's just like Ceramis. And I can tell by the weight of the pots. This one is actually a lot lighter. So I'm really excited to see how these orchids will do. Of course, I'll keep you up to date. As a first impression, first of all, the pots, I was not expecting them to work with the wick system. I don't know why I was expecting something fancier than that, maybe because I watched only the videos with the bigger pots, but these small pots, it's the wick system. It's personally a letdown for me. The pot itself looks really good. If you like design, if you like stuff to be just pretty and nice and not dirty, look clean and all, I think this design is absolutely beautiful. And for orchids especially, I think it goes really, really well. Price-wise, this isn't cheap, but considering they do give you the medium, let's say the price is not overwhelmingly high, at least here in Europe. In the USA it is a lot higher for whatever reason, but it's not tiny either. You can absolutely do without these pots. This is more for a presentation, more for collections of just a few orchids and just those really beautiful, very clean looking locations. The plastic they're made of is pretty flimsy, although the overall quality of the product is really good. There are no sharp edges, no unfinished trims and stuff of the sort. So even though this is a thin plastic, it's good. It's light, it looks good. It just doesn't scream quality, but the manufacturing process is really, really quality. I really do like how well they look and how well they're finished. Now, the medium itself, the pond, well, I'll just have to discover it, right? First impressions, I'm not impressed because I worked with Ceramis. I don't like the fact that it has fertilizer. I'm a control freak. I want to know what I dose to my orchids. I could not put a Masdevallia in this medium if I wanted to, for example. Now, they tell you that this medium should fertilize your orchid or plant for up to 6 months. But the problem is, orchids don't necessarily need fertilizer when we repot them, particularly if they're not in good shape, right? So again, this might work well with houseplants, not so well with orchids in my opinion, but hey, maybe we're lucky, maybe this isn't a lot of fertilizer. But I'm pretty sure that with sensitive rooted orchids, one might have some issues with this pond medium. So that's why I was interested in looking for alternatives and other types of medium we can use with these pots. For these ones, I wouldn't try semi-hydroponics, I wouldn't try bark, I wouldn't even try the terrestrial mix with bark, simply because a wick is not enough. If it were a reservoir in which the bottom part would sit, maybe it would be better. That's what I thought the system was. But with these tiny pots, it's not. However, sphagnum moss, I'm pretty sure it's gonna work. If you already have Ceramis, I'm pretty sure again it's gonna work. This is exactly like Ceramis, although it's a different material. Obviously, it might behave a little different, but it is very absorbent, doesn't repel water when it's dry. At least at the beginning it didn't. And I'm pretty sure it wicks water and the wick will do a good job. I guess time will tell. I'm pretty happy about this because now we know when to water. You know, you can just look at the reservoir, but you do have a visual measurement, little gauge here, particularly because I don't like semi-hydroponics in clear pots or anything that can get algae in clear pots. So this is really useful. We'll see how it does. I'm happy about the experiment. I don't keep my hopes high for the pond medium, but hey, who knows? And if it doesn't work, well, there's always African violets, and those stuff will work because we're gonna use soil. So that's about it for today. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you're gonna be interested in the experiment, even though you weren't really interested in these pots anyway to begin with. So thank you so much for watching. Hope you've enjoyed it. If you did, you know the drill. Give it a thumbs up. If you hated it, give it a thumbs down. Subscribe to my channel for regular orchid videos, tutorials, experiments, and things of the sorts. And if you'd like YouTube to remind you every time I upload a video, just turn on all notifications for my channel. So with that said, I'll see you all next time. Bye!